I've been on a spiritual journey since I was 16, right? And so, I'm 50, so that's 34 years. First book was the Bhagavad Gita. Like that was my first spiritual text. And then I started meditating and started sitting with psychedelics back then. And then 17 years ago, while I was still practicing in my office in New Jersey, I always tell this story. I went upstairs to get a massage. And a minute later, someone from here, Wimberley, texted me and said, "How was your massage?" And of course, I responded with, "How do you know I just got a massage?" And she said, "Your soul told me." And so that was like a huge turning point in my life where my intellectual studies of spirituality was faced with, holy shit, there's something real. There's something like you can't deny, like someone just texted me, "How was your massage?"
How could they have known?
How could they have known?
Yeah.
Right. And, my friends were like, "Oh, she geo-tracked you." I was like, "No, I went upstairs. I didn't like drive anywhere." And so in that moment, I was like, got it. So I devoted my attention away from reading like published medical research and all the sciences to ancient. I was basically trying to figure out, how does one talk to someone's soul? Right. And so in that process, I stumbled upon these Hermetic laws. And then when I read them, it felt like a remembrance, not a learning. And it wasn't until many years later in 2021, doing this sort of past life regression in the quantum field, where I remembered that an aspect of my consciousness was Hermes, the messenger god, bridging heaven and earth. And I was killed during this great battle during Atlantis. And so when I remember this, it like my devotion to the Hermetic laws made absolute sense. And so having that memory since 2021, I've now devoted most of my attention to living as these laws as much as possible, so that I'm just emanating the frequency of these laws into life.
How did the laws even come about? Because I believe you had said this is the oldest written text that human beings have ever known. Is this like pre-Anki and Enlil? I mean, this is truly the oldest wisdom that exists.
Yeah, depending on how far you trace back, right? It's from the Emerald Tablets, right? And so the Emerald Tablets in modern history, we would say it's Egyptian. But if you are willing to look beyond modern narrative, it's, Atlantean, right? And so that would be back at least 25 to 35,000 years ago, where Thoth or Thoth was the Atlantean god, not just an Egyptian god. And so that's like the earliest tracings of where these laws came from, right? And he was credited with being like the teacher of math, science, medicine, alchemy, in all wisdom, basically. And what's really interesting is if you start to piece together the puzzle, Thoth, Metatron, Enoch, all the same. That's a whole nother story. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a layer maybe we can uncover.
Maybe.
So when you started to really embody, because that's the key. Like I always believe that in my life, and I wonder how you feel about this, it's always been like a gathering, an application, and then finally the embodiment, an arc of wellness. And most of us get stuck in the gathering, and then we want to skip the application and we want to pretend that we've embodied. When did you find you had either the most trouble, which is also the most blessing, of actually applying it and embodying it? These 7 laws. I mean, I'm sure it's still a work in progress.
It is.
But was there a certain time where you're like, okay, this is a challenge, and these laws I know intellectually are powerful.
Yeah.
A guideline for living.
Yeah.
Was there one or many moments where you stumbled, and what did that look like?
Yeah. Early on, when I was still operating in the linear context, I'll explain what this means. I was definitely reading every book I could get my hands on about the Hermetics or anything related to Hermetics, right? And so, the idea, right, was to assimilate and take in as much data as possible, and then I would practice that data, and through that practice, it would be embodied. I've learned since that you can just immediately embody things, and that's what I mean by during the early years, it was like the linear thinking of data first, right? Practice, and then embodiment and mastery. I've firsthand witnessed that we can literally embed these codes embodied into people in a couple of days. That
blows my whole arc of wellness away. Please continue. Yeah.
Right? Because we are vibrating molecules. And so we're not just the intellect and thinking. Right? We're a bunch of vibrating molecules. And so what if we could immediately encode the vibration of the hermetics into the vibration of our molecules? If we could do that, in theory, we would just immediately take on the vibration of the Hermetic laws without the intellectual understanding and application of it. This is what I mean. That is absolutely possible. I've seen that. And when that happens, and as that happens, miracles immediately come into people's lives. Like when I do these activations, and some of our friends, mutual friends, have been through it, I get these fabulous texts. They're like, oh my God, my life just is now filled with even more miracles, like days after, continuously.
And it sticks. It's truly embodied.
Because it is a code that you take in. And we're absolutely able to do this. It's like, Neo in the Matrix, like, I need to learn to fly that helicopter.
Yeah, and it just goes, it's like, download the program.
It's that.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. So please go layer by layer into how these codes are imprinted.
Yeah.
And what it looks like for a human being to go through that process.
Yeah. So I'm still in my exploration of getting to a point where it is just an instant imprint. I have not gotten there yet. So I'll call it, I'm still playing with a hybrid model. Right. So right now the system is people do go through the course, right? And so they kind of intellectually take it in. And then when they arrive at a live experience, we use old and new technologies to kind of imprint it into their field, right? So we have these vibration vests with 7 speakers. It's a 2-hour soundtrack with 11 songs. Each song has a specific vibrational intention, vibrational effect. And then there's like a voiceover that's happening in the background. And all of that is designed to kind of imprint the codes, right, of these hermetic laws into someone. And then while they're doing that, some of them just drink cacao. The cacao's been alchemized with certain frequencies of all the sacred sites, which again, these sacred sites hold the vibration of basically the hermetic principles. And sometimes they ingest with other substances in there, but either way, they all have this deep spiritual experience. And when they come out of it, miracles happen. That's the best way I can put it. Like impossible things happen.
What's something impossible? I know you can't name names. What's something impossible you've seen that was possible?
Yeah. Countless stories. Just recency bias. So 3 activations ago, which was 6 weeks ago, it's one of my favorite ones. This guy, when he came, his biggest life complaint was his relationship with his son has been fractured since their divorce 3 years ago. Right? It's a nasty divorce, legal battle. The mother's like, your dad's an a-hole, don't talk to him. So you can imagine that splinters the relationship with the son. Right? And so without reaching out to the son, without doing a vision board, without any kind of manifesting typical make your wish, get your desire process, he simply just took in the codes. 2 days in of a 3-day experience, his son calls him and they have their first loving conversation in 2 years without any act on his end, right? And so he, of course, takes it as a coincidence. For myself, I'm like, this is just what happens.
You're like, this happens all the time.
All the time. And the next miracle is the best part, which is at the last evening of this experience at dinner, he gets a text message and he's sitting next to me, right? He's looking at his phone. I'm looking over. I'm like, hey, why aren't you like mingling with all the humans? And he shows me this picture, and it's a picture of his son, a recent picture of his son sent to him by a text message from his mom, right? And when I see it, I'm like, oh, that's great. Your mom's kind of confirming that your relationship with your son has been now repaired, right? And then he goes, yeah, but she died 2 years ago. The message came during dinner from his mom, who passed away 2 years ago, with a recent picture of his son. This is a great example of our reality isn't what we think it is. And so that's an example of a miracle.
Gosh, I just watched myself try to say that's not true, but then I'm like, there's no way you would lie because you don't have that vibration to you. Yeah. We're going to go through many layers of shattering here and understanding. The first layer for me, and it is the first law, the law of polarity. It's a really important one.
Yeah.
What I learned from the course is that everything is dual, right? Everything is dual. Everything has poles. Everything has a pair of opposites. So that would definitely explain part of the text, but not all of it. There's some other laws baked in there. Can you extrapolate that?
Meaning which laws would be applied?
Which laws were making that happen, essentially?
Sure.
I mean, there's no logical framework where a deceased person is sending a text. It's just not in our current realm of reality.
Yep. I would say if I had so just so you know, every spiritual wisdom, religious wisdom, or text that I read, my brain at this point, 15 years in, I just go, oh yeah, that's the law of this and this and this combined. It's just a permutation of the 7, basically. And so in this situation, I would say it's a combination of the law of mentalism, right? All things come from the mind, which means our thoughts and beliefs are absolutely dictating what is quote unquote real, right? And so if his mind, his thoughts, and his words have been shifted, which is part of this process, then of course his external reality is going to shift, right? So he's casting different spells with different thoughts. The other is the law of correspondence, as above, so below, as within, so without. And what that means is how he is vibrating is dictating the external world. The external world is just a projection, a holographic projection of your subconscious vibration, basically. And so again, having gone through this process, which is designed to imprint these laws and shift your vibration, that means that the external world will correspond differently because your internal world is now vibrating different.
Yeah.
Right. And then the last, I would say, the law of cause and effect, right? When everything's input output, we have the divine capabilities to affect all of reality. And so again, as his internal codes have shifted, therefore the external reality of what's possible has of course shifted.